Welcome to the Tournament Center. I'm Brian David Marshall here with Ian Duke from R&D, and we are about to watch three-time Pro Tour Top 8 competitor Kentaro Yamamoto draft. Here you get a look at his table. Antonio De Rosa across from him, Brian Braun-Duin, Ryoichi Tamada, Pedro Carvalho, among some of the other players at this table. But let's see what Kentaro Yamamoto does. Oh, also hidden by Ian Duke was Hall of Famer Ben Rubin at this table. This table is no easy task at all, even for someone with 3 Pro Tour Top 8s like Yamamoto. Let's see what he did when he opened up his first pack of Eldritch Moon. Or not. Well, there we go. There you see him shuffle quickly assembled alphas, comes right to the front there, Ian. You know, that's a very powerful card, very board dominating. Also see a deranged whelp near the front.
Yeah, the assembled alphas stands out. It's a fairly strong rare. It's a 5/5 creature for 6 mana. It's very difficult to block or get in combat with. I wouldn't call it a bomb, but it's definitely a strong consideration.
There's also a Galvanic Bombardment in that pack, and a Make Mischief, not as nearly in the same league as those other cards, but a lot of red cards to choose from in that pack, and possibly, you know, sending some red signals down.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you could have either picked the assembled alphas or the Galvanic Bombardment, and you definitely have to be mindful of the fact that you're passing one of the two either way. Looks like he did go with the assembled alphas.
All right, so pick 2. Looking through, you see a Certain Death. I see a Faithbearer Paladin. Oh, I see a Foul Emissary. And
I think it's a
Scab.
Heron's Grace Rider there.
Heron's Grace Champion,
rather,
yeah.
Yes.
And that's a pretty powerful signal.
Yeah.
A very powerful card. It's like a body that has tenacity on it when it enters the battlefield.
Yep, it fits perfectly in a green-white humans deck. It's not red, unfortunately, and it would require him to leave that first pick behind, but it's a powerful enough card that I could see picking it here for the option of either staying in red or abandoning that and going into green and white.
He does take the Heron's Grace Champion. Ingenious Scab fits really nicely into a blue-red shell.
Yep.
Really benefits from a lot of the spells that you'll have in red with its prowess, but decides that this is a powerful card and he's going to take a flyer on it here.
Yeah, so now he's kind of at a fork in the road. He has a powerful rare in each of different colors.
So there's a Thermo Alchemist. That's another great card in the blue-red spells deck. You see a Fiendbinder, which is me. You know, he's like, well, what's here? That's white for me. You know, playing off the
and then I think it's a Conduit of Storms there.
And a Conduit of Storms, yeah. Yep. So another red card.
Yeah, I think if he decides to go with the red card, the Conduit of Storms is stronger than the Thermo Alchemist. Looks like he has that pulled to the front right now.
And it looks like he is, okay. So that's one of the things you can do. You can get past a card. You can say, all right, let me see what follows up this Heron's Grace Champion. Oh, nothing? All right, I'm going to go back to my red cards.
Absolutely, yeah. It's good to take those opportunities. It doesn't mean you're automatically switching gears into white and green, but it's good to have that option there.
Okay, Wretched Griff comes right to the front, along with Galvanic Bombardment. There's also a Borrowed Hostility in there, which is a card that has impressed me very much early on.
So seeing the Galvanic Bombardment here, BDM, that's a huge signal that red could be open. This is considered the strongest red common by many players, and seeing this here, 4th pick is a great sign that red might be very open.
All right, so he does take the Bombardment there. And so 3 red picks and a Heron's Grace. And it's interesting, you could be red-white or you could be red-green and possibly splash that Heron's Grace. The games in this format go longer, so the Heron's Grace Champion might even still be possible to be splashed. Although I guess, you know, not something that you're necessarily looking to do.
Yeah, it's certainly an option. I think Kentaro Yamamoto here, though, is planning on being red and just looking to stay open to find what his second color will be.
Deploy the Gatewatch in the back, a Tattered Haunter, looks like a Chilling Grasp there.
Tattered Haunter is a nice card to see here as well. This could be a signal that blue might be the right second color to be in. Tattered Haunter, one of the stronger blue commons in Eldritch Moon.
Yeah, a card that we've seen different versions of. If you've ever played with a Welkin Turn, then you have a pretty good idea of what's going on when you're playing with a Tattered Haunter. Oh, and there's an Ingenious Scab. That's a pretty late for that to be in the pack. A premium blue common. There's also an Enlightened Maniac in the pack. I can't see what the last red card is. There seems to be a lot of blue going around as well.
The Scab's a great pickup here. Not only is it a signal that, yes, indeed, blue might be open, but also Ingenious Scab is arguably at its best in a blue and red deck because of the prowess ability. Those are the 2 colors that tend to have the most spells.
Yeah, and when those spells are removing creatures out of the way and you're making this guy bigger and you get some extra pumps on him in the mid-game. So there's a Laboratory Brute. There's a Prophetic Ravings, which is not a card you see very often. Get played very often. A Morn Willow, a Lunarch Mantle, which we saw picked very highly at the Grand Prix.
Yeah,
in the top 8.
interestingly. Yeah, not a lot of great options there. It looks like he does go with the Laboratory Brute. It's basically, it's a Hill Giant. It's a 4-mana 3/3. Not a card you're excited to play, but it might have to fill in the curve.
It costs 4. It goes here. So there is a Convolute. I see a Campaign of Vengeance in the back. Convolute is
Yeah,
the pick
interesting
here
to see a lot of these powerful multicolor cards going around a bit late.
Campaign of Vengeance has been a little bit of a divisive card when I've talked to people about drafting. There's some people who love it, and there's people who are like, I won't even touch that card.
Yeah, very interesting.
So now we see a Cryptolith Fragment, which, again, we talked about that idea of splashing. That's something that gives you...
I like Cryptolith Fragment quite a bit, especially in an aggressive deck. Yeah, it does give the option to splash, but more so than that, I'm just interested to have a mana source that can actually do something impactful later on in the game.
Spontaneous Mutation and Enlightened Maniac. He's going to go with the mutation there. Just a great combat trick.
Yeah, it's a fine card. It's not at its strongest in the type of deck that he has, which doesn't have a lot of spells that are going to the graveyard right now. It's more creature focused so far, but it could turn out to be a great card in his deck, and of course triggers prowess as well.
They take Turn Aside there.
Yeah, I think so. We're getting kind of down to the dregs of the pack here, BDM.
I was surprised to see a Gavinion Hollowed going around so late. It's been a fine card. Interesting card to see at the back of the pack. Perhaps I've been overvaluing it. Deploy the Gatewatch, and not deploy the Gatewatch is what he takes.
Right. Yeah, deploy the Gatewatch. Not a card you'll see played in Limited very often.
All right. So how do you like this at the end of pack 1?
It's a little sketchy. I mean, he has some solid picks. Seeing the Galvanic Bombardment into a couple strong blue cards was a nice middle of the pack for him. But I would say his deck right now is, it's kind of in like the B range. You're like okay with how the pack went, but really hoping to get something juicy coming into the next pack.
What are you hoping for here in going into pack 2?
I mean, as always, a bomb rare. Something like a Docent of Perfection in blue would be fantastic. But really just a strong removal spell, another Galvanic Bombardment perhaps, would be a great thing to see.
Okay. So there you see him, he's reviewing, looking through the cards, just getting a sense of things. The players don't get to look at the cards while they're actually looking at the packs. So they only have the opportunity to review in between each pack. So it's kind of an interesting opportunity to sort of do a little tally of, how many 2-drops do I have, how many 3-drops do I have, how much removal do I have.
Yep.
So what's my mana fixing? The
other thing that's really important to look for when you're in the red and blue combination is how many instants and sorceries do I have, because there are a lot of cards in those colors that pay off those card types. And right now he's a little bit low on that. He's kind of more in the quality creatures, good stuff kind of range than in a heavily synergy-focused deck. So we'll have to keep that in mind as we look at his future picks.
All right. So we see, I see a Bold Impaler back there. I see Spreading Flames, a very, very powerful card. But I also see a Brazen Wolves, and this to me has become one of the top red non-spell commons.
Yes.
Non-instant or sorcery commons. I love this card. And it's great in the blue-red spells deck, oddly, because you're bouncing things and you're killing things, and then you're just attacking for 4. You just put such a clock on your opponent with this card.
Yeah, it looks like he does go with the Brazen Wolves. Just a really solid common. Doesn't ask much of your deck, right, which is really important here when his deck is a little bit short on playable cards right now coming out of pack 1. So just wanting something that's going to be generically powerful and will fit in his deck no matter what.
So there's an Insatiable Gorgers, a Galvanic Bombardment. I saw a Mercurial Geist in
Yeah,
there.
that's really interesting, BDM. Mercurial Geist is the multicolor uncommon for the blue-red combination. However, it's up against one of the top red commons here in Galvanic Bombardment. So personally, I would go with the Galvanic Bombardment based on the way his deck is shaping up so far. Mercurial Geist is really not an excellent card unless you have a lot of instants and sorceries to go with it. And yeah, he does go with the Galvanic Bombardment, which I definitely agree with, but it's worth keeping in mind that Mercurial Geist is still in the pack and it could come around. It would be, I guess, 10th pick here.
I think there's a couple cards that might come around there, right? He might get a Spontaneous Mutation. He might, it's possible that even, a red card will come back around like a medium red creature.
Yeah.
Here we go. We see Eternal Scourge. We see Make Mischief. Not a ton here for him. There's a Convolute. A reprint that's been kind of, you're like, oh yeah, I got to play around that sometimes. Oh, he is going to take it looks like he's going to take the Convolute.
Yeah, this is an unexciting pack to be sure. Convolute is a card, you'll play sometimes. Make the deck maybe half the time or something like that, depending on how your deck is shaping up. But it's not something you're excited to pick third, for sure. And he's got to be worried a little bit. Remember, back to pack 1, he did pass that Galvanic Bombardment. from
Right.
pack 1, pick 1, so his neighbor could be in red.
Wow, there's another Brazen Wolves, though. And that seems to be the clear pick here. Lots of black cards flying around the table. I don't know if Yamamoto took note of a Haunted Dead that went by in the last pack. He's like, oh, now a Midnight Scavengers.
Right.
A lot of really nice black cards going around. But
yeah, I mean, given the way pack 1 went, I didn't see a great opportunity for him to jump into black. And seeing the Brazen Wolves here is got to be like really welcome sign after seeing that previous pack being really lacking in red and blue cards. So really good pickup for him there.
There's a Bard Hostility. Fortune's Favor. That's an interesting card, kind of reminiscent of Fact or Fiction, with a little bit of get to play a little game with your opponent.
Mind game, yeah. It's a very fun card. I wouldn't say it's premium or excellent. It's solid. You know, it's a little stronger than Inspiration, for example, and something that I'll often play in a blue-red deck that values instants and sorceries. But again, Kentaro Yamamoto, though he's blue and red, doesn't have a lot of synergies with his instants and sorceries yet.
He does take the Fortune's Favor here.
Yep.
So that's kind of that'll be fun to watch and see how you divide that up.
Yeah.
Got to find out if the tech team has a face down pile, face up pile graphic ready.
I don't think we have that planned out necessarily, but we'll see.
All right. So back in, we see a Field Creeper come to the front of the pack here.
Yeah, a little bit early to be excited to be picking Field Creeper. I mean, it's just a 2-mana 2/1 in his deck right now. He doesn't have Delirium or really any special way to take advantage of it. There are a few things in the set that care about colorless creatures, which is worth keeping in mind. But
Grizzled Angler, Stensia Innkeeper, Shreds of Sanity could be an interesting card for him, depending on his instant and sorcery count. But
yeah, interestingly, he's looking at the Grizzled Angler here. This is a card that I like quite a bit, although we're late into the Eldritch Moon picks to go for that one. You do need a fair number of colorless creatures in your deck to really take advantage of it. So
Stensia Innkeeper is a pick. This is a nice card that sometimes, if your opponent hiccups a little on mana, you can really punish them.
Yeah.
Or keep them off their splash for a big turn.
Yeah, I'm always happy to play my first Stensia Innkeeper.
Spontaneous Mutation is looking like the pick here. Again, wow, so many playable black cards in this pack. Olivia's Dragoon, and a Graph Rats, and a Weirded Vampire, it looks like. Wow. Black is running very, very deep in these packs. Curious to see how many players end up black, or if, I know we know at least one that we watched draft previous, but, I'm curious how many other black cards.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a breakdown of the table a little bit later on in the day.
Now, again, we're going down to the dregs of the pack. So what do you start to think about here as you start to imagine your Shadows over Innistrad pack? Like, what are you hoping for? Oh, wow, look at this. Insatiable Gorgers came back around the table for him out of that pack that we were talking about.
Very nice.
What might return. So he did get an Insatiable Gorgers out of that pack.
Yeah, I think Kentaro's in a kind of a tricky spot here. He's got kind of a blue-red good stuff deck.
There's a Make Mischief.
A couple different synergies you can explore here, whether it's Madness, whether it's caring about instants and sorceries and prowess, or doing graveyardy type things. And he's got just a little bit in each of those directions, but not enough to really come together to give him a coherent strategy. So I think he's really just looking for more good cards in the third pack, which is strange to say, but this is a really synergy-based format, and he's in a spot where his deck is not well positioned to take advantage of any of the synergies that are offered to him.
Right, so it just takes a 3-bin Standard Bearer away, and I don't want to deal with that card later. And that's it for our Eldritch Moon pick. So now where do you feel? Do you feel like his deck's a little stronger than it was, looking at a pack 1? Do you feel a little better about it?
Still kind of riding that line where I'm a little bit nervous about it. I mean, he's got the Galvanic Bombardments. He's got some solid creatures. I think he's in okay shape. He's not, train wreck disaster status by any portion or by any stretch of the imagination. But, I think he wishes he had a little bit more in one particular direction for the synergy in his deck.
Sure. I think I like where he's at. I like 2/3. I like Brazen Wolves.
Yes.
I like the Ingenious Scobs. I like where he is on 3. I like that he's got that Assembled Alpha for his late game. That card is impossible to deal with.
It's really hard to deal with,
especially if you have some instants and things to, to sort of make it really miserable for them. And pending a couple picks here, I kind of like where he's at.
Yeah, I think he's in solid shape.
I think we're sort of in like the B range right now.
I totally agree. Absolutely, that's a good way to sum it up. One thing that's interesting is his deck is pretty well suited to take advantage of combat tricks in the Shadows over Innistrad pack, which is a little bit unusual for red-blue. But he has some more beefy creatures. He has the Ingenious Scob. He's got the Brazen Wolves that we talked about. So if he can pick up a couple mid to late pick, useful combat tricks, that's something that he could take advantage of in his particular seat.
Right. There you get a look at the table. See Ben Rubin, Brian Braun-Duin, Pedro Carvalho across the table. There's Antonino De Rosa just got married, so congratulations to him.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, just before the GP weekend.
Very cool.
So it made it easy for a lot of players to make it down. But now, Kentaro Yamamoto is about to open Shadows over Innistrad, and let's see what that brings to the table. Immediately brings a Gastaff Arsonist to the front.
Okay, that's a solid card, but not something you're necessarily looking to first pick. We'll see what his other options are here in the pack.
Doesn't really look like there's very much.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of glare here, but based on the fact that he does still have that Gastaff Arsonist in the front, I think that's the card that he's looking at right now, which again, that doesn't excite me that much, BDM. What do you think of that first pick?
I'm never super excited about Gastaff Arsonist. It's gone up a little bit for me in this new format because it's a little slower. We have a little bit more time for the games to play out.
Yeah,
and
that
so,
makes a lot of sense.
So everything that's a little bit more expensive has gotten a little better for me. All right, there's a Storm Rider Spirit. Well, there's a Fiery Temper. That's the perfect card. Wow, he really likes Gastaff Arsonist because he has it up against Fiery Temper right now.
Yeah, I have to imagine that's not an actual, these are equal, I'm deciding which one. Fiery Temper, to me, just has to be the slam here. And a really exciting card to see, even second pick.
I'm also fairly happy with Storm Rider Spirit in this deck. Again, a lot of times you want to keep your mana open. Yeah, he is going to take the Fiery Temper. But, it could be a creature or a spell when you have the flash creatures.
Yep. The one thing to be a little cautious of is he is pretty heavy on 3 mana cost cards.
Yep. It doesn't really have a madness outlet for this.
That's also true. But even just at hard casting this for 3 mana, you're really happy to have that card in your deck. But just something to keep in mind as he's looking at future picks.
It is the Gastaff Arsonist day here. Trying to clear the shelters. Take a Gastaff Arsonist home with you. There's a Press for Answers. It's a nice little spell that could work for him, but not something I think he wants to pick this early. So it is. He takes a second Arsonist.
So at this point in the draft, he's got to be satisfied with where he is on big creatures between the 2 Gastaff Arsonists and the assembled alpha that he has already. So I don't think he's really looking to add any more big creatures to his deck unless he sees something really premium that's going to outclass what he already has.
What are you looking for here now? Maybe some Sanguinary Mages or something along those lines, like a good 2-drop?
Yeah, even a card like Just the Wind, I think, would be welcome in his deck also,
Sure.
even though he doesn't have a lot of madness. It's good to just get through extra damage with Brazen Wolves, things along that line.
Ulrich's Kindred, see a Vampire, see Insolent Neonate, which can be a nice card. He likes the counter spells. He's got Deny Existence near the front.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But Blood-Made Vampire is going to be the pick, it looks like. No, he takes the Deny Existence.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me. I wonder if that's an acknowledgement that this format has slowed down a little bit more, as you were talking about, BDM.
I think
the
it
games
has,
are going a little bit longer. You need to be prepared to answer your opponent's bombs.
So Seagraph Scob and Vessel of Paramnesia. There's also a Furtive Homunculus in there, so not super exciting 2-drop creatures to round things out.
Yeah, I could see him picking the Furtive Homunculus here just to kind of round out his curve. As we said, he's a little bit choked on 3-drops right now, a little bit low on 2-drops. This is not an amazing card by any means, but it's fine in an aggressive slanted red-blue deck.
Yeah, also you've seen more creatures from Shadows over Innistrad that you wouldn't normally see get played because you only have 1 pack to fill in your head. Wow, that's a great card there for him. He had the Convicted Killer up there for a second, but Pyrehound is just a perfect card. Again, a little slower. You have a little bit more time to set it up, and this card can get out of hand very, very quickly.
Yes, it definitely can. It's a very high synergy common compared to what's usually around. And this is one of those cards when I was talking about earlier about wanting to have instants and sorceries in your blue-red deck and wanting to play to that synergy. So a really nice pickup for him there. I believe it fits his curve well as well. I've kind of have a mental picture of his mana curve in my mind, which I wish I could show you. But
you'll draw it for us when we're done. You'll just give us a little
Absolutely,
diagram.
yeah.
Reduced to Ashes looks like it's going to be the pick here. Another card that's gone up. I didn't love it in Triple Shadows, but have been really, really happy with it in this new draft format.
Yeah, totally agree. I think this is it's a powerful card just in terms of what it does, and the reason people rated it a little bit lower in the previous format was it was a little on the slow side.
Yeah,
but now
and you could be on your heels from a 2-drop Hinterland Logger, and you're like, great, I've got a 5-drop removal spell in my hand. Okay, so Ember Eye Wolf near the front of the pack for him. There's also is there a skin invasion back there? I think there was, which is a card I kind of like. I like in his deck, but not something he's very interested in. It's an Insolent Neonate. It's the only card that could go in his deck. Oh, I guess he could take the Explosive Apparatus.
Yeah, I imagine we'll probably see the Neonate here. Oh, okay, goes for the Apparatus.
Just a little bit more removal.
Yep.
Not that he has, he has nothing that cares about Delirium.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think so.
Gas-Staff Arsonist.
And
Still in
again,
the pack.
exactly the reason why we weren't excited to see that first pick is like that's the kind of card that you can just kind of pick up whenever the opportunity presents itself later in the pack. And I don't think he's going to be playing 3, so
I
that
think
probably leaves him
probably
sideboard.
2, possibly 1, depending on
Yeah,
how
my
much
guess is he
has.
plays 2 of those plus the assembled alphas as kind of the top end of his curve.
You see Macabre Waltz is the pick here. There was also a Magnifying Glass, a card we heard Marshall say that he likes a little better now, but still, again, that kind of interesting shift of values and all these different cards in Shadows of Innistrad based on the speed of Eldritch Moon.
Yep.
Seagraph Scob, another 2-drop comes in for him towards the end. There's Vessel of Paramnesia or Behind the Scenes. Takes Behind the Scenes, and then the last couple cards. Ian Duke, how do you feel like this deck ended up?
I feel like after each pack, I had him at about a B every time, right? And it didn't really go up or down since the, in between then. Yeah, I think every pack went okay. I think he's going to be able to put together, 23 cards that he's happy with, that are solid. I don't think his deck is outstanding. He doesn't really have any bomb rares that stand out to me. The assembled alphas is good, but not something that you're is just going to take over a game by itself necessarily. So yeah, I think I have him at a B.
How about how he drafted the seat? Like, do you think that there was something else, a different direction he could have gone that would have gotten him a higher grade?
I think he drafted the seat very well from his perspective, especially given how pack 1 went. And the key that stands out in my mind is that like 3rd, 4th, 5th picks where he saw the Galvanic Bombardment, I think it was 4th in pack 1, which is a huge signal, into 2 very strong blue commons after that. I think that was the clear direction that it needed to go there. And I think, switching at any point after that would have been a mistake. So yeah, I definitely give him, an A- or an A on the way he drafted. So.
Excellent. So Kentaro Yamamoto, drafting here at Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. We're going to watch him play very soon.